So, you want to get ahead and actually feel accomplished. Well, if you're anything like me, you've tried all the advice the gurus out there give and still constantly feel behind no matter how much you try. That was me until early 2024. But then I realized I was overcomplicating everything. You see, all you need to do to get ahead is look at what everyone else is doing and do exactly the opposite. And the thing here is that everyone is already trying to get ahead of everyone else. So if you want to be the one who actually does get ahead, then the key here, ironically, is not to focus on getting ahead of others, but to focus on improving yourself. And to make things simple for you, in this video, I'll condense the entire process of focusing on yourself and joining the 1% of people who actually do become the best version of themselves into 5 timeless and fundamental principles. Not quick hacks, 5-minute habits, or goal-setting tips, but fundamental and timeless principles, unlike the BS you hear out there. And by the way, if you're truly serious about getting ahead, then that starts with getting ahead of those who aren't even serious enough to finish this video. Let's dive in. Step 1. Stop merely existing. Live. We are now in the age of information overload, and a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. And what does a poverty of attention create? Well, an unlived life. And that's the sad truth for most people. They never truly live. They just exist. And to explain what I mean, let's take a look at the definition of each. When it comes to living, that's when the person is fully engaged in the act of being. They are self-directed and intentional in creating a meaningful life. When it comes to existing, on the other hand, that's a life where time passes but is not actively shaped by the individual. They are passive, inert, and compliant. Now, compliant can mean compliant to the boss's orders, compliant to others' expectations, or compliant to societal pressures. Or it can mean all of them. But the point here is that all these things cause these people chronic pain in their lives. And because it's become their default, they have no idea where it even comes from, never mind how to get rid of it and break the cycle. But here's how you can break the cycle. First of all, become distractions aware. Each time you notice yourself getting distracted, note it down in a designated space like a simple notepad. And then slowly work towards limiting, blocking, and eliminating those distractions. Because remember, each distraction costs you living hours of the only life you have on this earth. And it's only up to you to decide if you are willing to pay that price. Second of all, become conscious of your thoughts, actions, and reactions. Simply observe them like you're observing yourself from third person. And watch out for why you think what you think, why you do what you do, and why you feel what you feel. Third of all, ask more questions in general. Now you can start with questioning your behaviors and beliefs, but don't stop there. Because as Albert Einstein said, the important thing is not to stop questioning. And that's because your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. Step 2. Know yourself. When you've completed step 1 and you're no longer distracted and you are asking questions, you will go on to know quite a bit about the world. But the only thing is that it does not matter how much you know about the world if you have no idea where you fit into that world. Or should I say, how you don't fit in. You see, John Mason said, "You were born an original, don't die a copy." But the way the school system treats us is as copies. And that is, after all, because the school system is not made to be effective in teaching you to think for yourself. It's made to be efficient in producing obedient workers. But the reason there's a need for that system in the first place is because we're not born that way. We're not born as obedient workers. Instead, to paraphrase Buckminster Fuller, every child is born a genius. But 9,999 out of every 10,000 are swiftly de-geniusized by the conditioning processes of society. That's right, you have a latent kind of genius deep within you. And that's why the question you should ask yourself is not, how intelligent am I? It's, how am I intelligent? And understanding that comes from looking within. So, first of all, look at your past, and more specifically, your childhood before you turned 7 years old, and before expectations, comparisons, and responsibilities got in the way. What questions could you not stop asking? What sparked your curiosity? And what were you good at and did people praise you for? Second of all, understand yourself in the present. Ask, what are my strengths? What do I value? And what are my weaknesses? And to get you started on knowing yourself, I will leave a prompt in the description of this video that you can use for Chat GPT to find your intelligence type, or how am I smart, like I just said. Because IQ isn't the only type of intelligence. There is interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, kinesthetic intelligence, musical intelligence, spatial intelligence, and the list goes on. Step 3. Find your vocation. Finding your vocation means finding work that is suited to you, challenges you, and makes you come alive. As Howard Gardner said, don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. This quote really resonates with me because 1 year ago, I was doing exactly the opposite. I was doing work that made me feel dead. And if you've heard the quote from Albert Einstein, where he said, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing it is stupid. I felt like that fish. But on a serious note, most people spend their entire lives, all the way up until retirement, feeling like that fish. And that's because school does not teach us, as we just mentioned, how to find work that makes us feel alive and that we're great at. Warren Buffett is a great investor, but he probably wouldn't be a great painter. Leonardo da Vinci was a great painter, but he probably wouldn't have been a great investor. The lesson here is that what makes you come alive is different for all of us. And that's why the step before this was to first understand yourself. But now that you do, it's time to find your vocation. Personally, how I found my vocation was using my triple C framework. The first C is curiosity. And for this one, you want to ask yourself, what will allow me to pursue my curiosities? This will give you a basic level of intrinsic drive and will allow you to constantly expand your mind. The second C is craft. Ask yourself, what do I want to get better at constantly? This will give you a high level of intrinsic drive and will allow you to pursue mastery. Because by the way, competence is one of our innate and universal human needs as humans. And the third C is cash. Ask yourself, what can I be paid for? This will allow you to be compensated for the value that you create. Then, when you have a list of answers for each of these, try to combine them together and see if there is a recurring theme. That is your vocation. Step 4. Be proactive. Before I started my journey, I was going through life like a passenger, waiting for something to steer me in the right direction. But then I realized that if I wanted to live a fulfilling life, I had to be the one to take control and responsibility for creating that life. Because as Abraham Lincoln said, the best way to predict your future is to create it. The thing is, most people don't create or predict the future. They are assigned one. And if you're watching this video, then I assume you don't want to be one of those people. And instead you want to carve your own path. So let's learn how to do that. First of all, accept what you cannot control and take responsibility for what you can. For example, you don't have control over the conditions, but you do have control over your actions. And for that reason, it would be foolish to wait for the perfect moment. Because the truth is, the perfect condition does not exist. The only perfect condition is you starting. Second of all, start seeing obstacles as opportunities to grow. You see, whenever we're faced with roadblocks or limitations, We think those are the biggest roadblocks ever, but the truth is, they only actually show up in that short space between our two very own ears. And what that means is that you have the power to choose how you react to them. If you see them merely as roadblocks, they will just discourage you and get in your way. But if you change your perception to always look for lessons each time you fail or make a mistake or are faced with a challenge, you can turn those roadblocks into stepping stones. And the more mistakes you stack up, the higher you can climb. So remember, failure is data, not destiny. And third of all, think long term. Because the truth is, most people are just in it for a quick win. They just want to make some quick money, they just want to become famous, or they just want some other cheap and easy win. But if you truly want to be part of the 1%, then you need to be in it for the long game. Have impatience with your actions and patience with your results. Because day to day, it's a sprint and rest, but in the long term, it's a marathon. Step 5. Reflect and refine constantly. Going back to 1 year ago when I was doing work I hated and I was at my lowest point, I was too focused on grinding to ever stop and reflect on the way things were going or how I could improve. But as Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. And that's because reflection without action is useless, but action without reflection is meaningless. If step 4, being proactive, is your engine, and step 5, reflecting, is your steering wheel. And without it, you will work hard but constantly end up in all the wrong places. When you do reflect, however, you are able to see what works, what doesn't, and how you can improve. Because the thing is, if you never stop improving, success becomes inevitable. So here's how to examine your life. Personally, I have a monthly, weekly, and daily reflection system. Monthly and weekly, I go on Notion and I ask myself questions like, what worked well this week or month? What challenges did I face and what lessons did I learn from them? And what is my priority for the upcoming week or month? And what can I do differently to improve? Then on a daily basis, I journal and I ask myself questions like, what worked well and what am I grateful for? What did I learn today? And what can I do differently to make sure I am making progress and improving? Because remember, if you never stop improving, success becomes inevitable. And boom, just like that, you are armed with the knowledge to get ahead and join the 1% of people who actually become the best version of themselves. All that's left now is for you to take action. Because the thing is that knowledge without action is just potential energy. It's useless until it's put to action. So take your first step today, even if it's a tiny one. Because as Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Take it today. I believe in you. Be mega. Ciao.